It's only recently that we inject humor in church, because we remember when you'd come and say, "Father, I laughed in church twice." And so that was the way it was. Today we know that we need to lighten up. It's such a heavy, heavy world. And so have you really laughed yet today? Now don't lie. Have you laughed today? See, you need me. But you know, you associate with families and people, and you always say, you know, is there laughter in this house? You know, you always look for that because it lubricates our relationships. And so this is the third Mass for me, therefore the third time I've told this joke. And if some of your family told it to you at home, you'll be polite and laugh anyway. Here it is. There were 4 graduates of St. Ed's High School, 4 guys. And they were very good buddies, and when they graduated, they said, well, you know, let's keep our friendship alive, and let's meet in 10 years, and we'll have a party. And they said, okay, where do you want to go? They said, well, let's go to Molly O'Grady's. Well, why? Well, the waitresses are very pretty, and the drinks are good. Okay, so they met, and they had a good time, and then they said, well, let's do it again. In 10 years, let's meet again. He said, where do you want to meet? They said, well, let's meet at Molly O'Grady's. Well, why? Well, because the waitresses are polite and the food is good. I said, well, this is fine. They had a nice time. And then they said, well, let's meet again in 10 years. And they said, where do you want to go? Let's go to Molly O'Grady's. Why? Well, because the food is fair and it's quiet there. And then they said, well, let's meet again in 10 years. And they said, where do you want to go? And they said, well, let's go to Molly O'Grady's. And they said, why there? Well, it's accessible. This handicap accessible. You got it. One way we get through this aging process is this way. Now wait till you hear the punchline. After that, they said, well, let's go and meet again when we're 80. And they said, where do you want to go? Well, let's go to Molly O'Grady's. And they said, why? Because we've never been there. I think the elderly are the ones that really can relate to that. Let's go back to the gospel. This woman wasn't laughing. She was desperate, and she was not a Jew. And that's why our Lord was hesitant, because he said, I came first for the Jews, then everybody else. As we know, he came for the whole world. But at that time, he was training the Jews and helping them to believe in him. So this non-Jewish woman came, and you gotta like her. Did you ever have one of your children get hurt or be very sick? I know you would do anything for your child. Most of you say, I'd rather it were me than my child. That's how you love your children, and it's so evident. Thank you for that. So anyway, our Lord sparred with her a little bit, not to tease her, but to make her get stronger. If you get everything you want immediately, you know, then it gets too easy. And virtue is made strong in adversity. You don't learn to play golf by going out once. You have to practice. And so we practice our faith so that by late age, I think, you know, should be just so much a part of us. And so we get stronger in our faith as we live it. And so she was persistent. That lady she begged and she believed and she hoped, and our Lord came through. So that's very much how we should be. Do you enjoy your faith? Do you find it comforting, consoling, giving you a reason to live and to hope and to get help? I hope so. There seem to be 2 kinds of Catholics: those that live in fear of going to hell, and those who love their faith and fully expect to see God one day. If you're in the first group, you got the wrong message. If you're in the second group, then that is the Christ who invites us. He's so magnetic, he's so helpful, he's so wonderful. And so I hope by now you have grown to enjoy your faith, which means that you are a joyful person. You're an optimistic person. You're a positive person. You're a laughing person. You don't sweat the small stuff. And in fact, it's mostly all small stuff. Washington and Wall Street are not running my life. And I hope you say the same. So you do the best you can, and then can the rest. I've said that before, and this past week, somebody who heard me say it a couple of years ago wrote and said that was the one thing she got from me. And she said it helped her so much. So that's the reason why I'm including it again today for anybody that needs. Don't sweat the small stuff. If religion just makes you anxious, worried, guilt-ridden, overly sensitive, that's not the good stuff. Well, let's talk about not having faith. Many of you are readers and you're up on current people, thinkers. There's a very, very famous, brilliant man whose name is Christopher Hitchens. And he's from England, and you see him on talk shows and so on, but he is a total atheist and sets out to talk against God. His very popular bestseller was God is Not Great, which is to cancel out our wonderful song, How Great Thou Art. So this is his theme. God is not great. He just happens to be dying of cancer, and he's a thorough alcoholic as well. And I'm not, I just want to describe where he is in life. But you have to make a choice. And here's what I think. I would rather live my faith with the joy and the strength and the vision and the reason for living that it gives me. I would rather live it even if it's not true. I would still have a better life. There is a famous argument, and it goes like this. If I believe, and it's not true, and at the end, there's just nothing, well, we won't know it. We just won't even know it. But if you don't believe, and it is true, boy, are you going to know it. So it's a good, thought for all of us, I think. So I hope you love being a believer. I hope you enjoy living with saints, canonized. When I pray, I invite Mary and Joseph and my patron, 2 Jameses, because I'm James, and angels that I've been praying on my knees by the bed every morning since I was that big, and the archangels and all the big saints, and then the saintly people around me. I'd like to give you 2 examples. By now, you've all heard about Gabby Giffords, the representative from, I think, Arizona, and she was shot in the head, you remember, about 5 months ago in a shopping mall. Shot in the head, bullet went right through and stuck. And we watched her progress. She was determined. She was going to make it. And she held the hand of her husband and squeezed a little bit and then used her eyelids, and then she began to speak a little. And he is an astronaut. She was down there to see him go off, I mean, don't you love those kind of people? They're made like us. But it's faith and hope and love and guts. That's the kind of person you want to be as a Christian. So then, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, she appeared on the floor, made her way to Washington to make her vote count in a very sensitive vote down there. Now, those are the saints around us, in my opinion. And the last one I want to tell you is this. On Thursdays, I get to go to Mercy Hospital to anoint the Catholic people who are sick out there. And so you don't know when you knock on that door, you know, who's behind there and what condition they are. So you never know. And so you say, well, I'll bring Christ. So anyway, the other day I was stunned and happy. This man was about 70, he was in bed, and he looked very grumpy. He didn't look very happy. And he reluctantly said, yeah, come on over, you know, because you want to approach him. He says, they kicked me out of the church 40 years ago because I got divorced. So he says, I'm not Catholic no more, but I kept the faith. And I stayed with him and talked with him and allowed him to talk and express his discontent, his hurt. And by the end of it, he was reconciled and he's back receiving the sacraments. That's grace, and that's what faith is. There's a book called Once a Catholic. Hopefully, you're always going to believe. And there are degrees of belief, but I hope you do believe. And again, I repeat, if we're wrong, we won't even know it. But if we're right, you can imagine the joy and the happiness that awaits each one of us, not because we're so good, but because Jesus made it possible, and he wants it more than you do.